everyone, my name's Christy. Welcome to my corner. Thank you for joining me today on this Flosstube Friday for Flosstube number 59. I have quite a bit to talk about today. I'm going to try and keep it brief. I am very tired. My dog woke me up every 1.5 to 2 hours last night. So like, even though I went to bed at a reasonable time, I'm so tired. It made no difference. So I am hoping to keep this kind of short so that way I can kind of go relax and stitch this evening and get some stuff done. But talking to you always kind of energizes me, so who knows how I'll feel by the end of this video. But before we get to any of that stuff, I want to welcome my new subscribers. Thank you so much for joining me on my crafty and artistic adventures. And welcome back to everyone who's been hanging out with me for however long you've been with me. It's been great to get to know you in the comments here on YouTube and also on Instagram. And if you're not following me on Instagram, you can find me in 2 different locations. You can find my normal everyday stitching and life and dog and experiments Instagram at Dr_Christy, and I'll put that right here. But I've also recently started a new Instagram channel that is focused on vintage spools and crafts with vintage spools. I figured that not everybody on who follows me on Instagram cares about vintage spools. So I chose to start a new Instagram for that, and I'm hoping a new venture, a new spoolie venture. But that Instagram is the spoolery, which has also been, right over here this whole time. This is a channel about embroidery and cross stitch and other textile crafts and baking and history and the history of all of those things. So if any of that is interesting to you and you're not subscribed, I'd love to have you subscribe and stick around. I haven't had a ton of time to stitch this week. I am participating in a craft fair next Friday for my spool project. In fact, I'll show you one of the things that I made this week. I made an adorable vintage spool Christmas wreath. So there you go. That's an FFO. I have a red one too, but it's over there along with other things. And my video next Friday will basically be a tour of all of the stuff that I have that I'm taking to the craft fair and how I'm setting it up and that kind of a thing. But anyway, so I haven't had a ton of time to do stitching, but I do actually have a fully finished object and a finished object of stitching. I do want to point out that I am wearing my Bob Ross scarf that I made in honor of a new Flosstuber that I just started watching today. People have been talking about him for a while, and he has tons of viewers, so most of you probably watch him. But I've been watching Chris Cross Stitch, and I think it's Chris XROSS Stitch. I'll put his name here and I'll link him down below. But he exudes Bob Ross / Mr. Rogers vibes. And so I decided to wear my Bob Ross scarf in honor of Chris Cross and his soothingness, because sometimes you just need someone soothing. And he's lovely and pleasant and delightful and soothing. So that's why I'm wearing my Bob Ross scarf today. So I have I have a fully finished object and a finished object. So despite all my not stitching, I actually got some stuff done today, or the past 2 weeks. And I have 2 whips that I've worked on. So I have 4 different stitching projects to show you today, which is kind of fun. Let's start with the fully finished object. And last video, I had showed you my Floral E that I made for a friend of mine who had a baby. And I asked you to choose between the pink frame and the gray frame. And the vote was pretty close. I think it was probably the gray frame that won, but I chose the pink frame, and I will explain why. And a lot of it is for selfish reasons. So I chose the pink frame because pink was one of the predominant colors that she said the room would be, and gray was very much an accent color. So I didn't know how much gray was happening in the room. And this is the gray frame that I was thinking of using, which looks much greener on the camera. It's very much more gray than green. But the deciding factor, honestly, was that the gray frame was much more useful to me later on than the pink frame. Like, I just wouldn't stitch very much in my life that required a pink hoop frame. So I figured, while I have the chance to actually use the pink hoop frame, I should use it. So that's why I did it. So that way I can use the gray frame for something later. But this is my, let me put things down. This is my fully finished object for the past 2 weeks, and I'm really pleased with it. There you go. And I did not fully I was thinking about putting felt or something on the back of this, but I don't know that it needs it. I mean, it's going to be up against it. It's going to be on a wall. I probably won't. I'll probably leave it just like this, and it's gathered on the back. And if you would like to know how I finish my pieces in hoops, I did make a video of that, I don't know, probably a year ago. I'll put the link up here. And I show you 3 different ways to finish a hoop, and this is the most simple way. The most simple way is just putting in a hoop, gathering it in the back, and tying a nice little bow. But there are 2 other slightly more complicated ways that I show you as well in that video if you're interested. So there's my fully finished object, and I will not have it sent out. I will send it out to my friend probably Monday. I'll go to the post office on Monday. And the fun thing is that I now have another hoop that I can work on, because I stitch on kind of thick hoops and I frame in the thin bamboo-y kind of hoops. My finished object is the result of another vote, and that vote ended the last video, and it's when I asked you to help me choose Christmas ornaments to stitch for 2 different stitchy giveaways, or not giveaways, exchanges that I'm a part of this winter. And the first one is through embroidery.com, and I think you can still register, but it has to be stitched, but I think you can also register until the 15th, which is in 3 days, because it has to be finished by that time. The other one is closed, and I'm not remembering off the top of my head who's hosting it, but I already have my person for that. I don't have my person for the embroidery.com one. So one of the hands down winner was this birds and snowflakes design here, and the cardinal is the winner, and the designer for this is Evdokia Nikoleva. I'll show you there. Birds, it's this one here, birds and snowflakes, and this is in the Winter Stitching February 2021 Just Cross Stitch magazine, and I have a finish. So this is stitched on a very light blue, not very mottled, color and cotton, I think 20 count Aida that I got in a grab bag. So I don't know, it's not named. And the bird is stitched in DMC. The snowflake, I don't even know if you can see it. There we go. The snowflake is stitched in a white silk from DeVere Yarns. And then I just used silver beads because I had them. So I'm going to turn this into an ornament, and I'm going to try and finish it in a hexagon. Yeah, I'm going to try and finish it in a hexagon shaped ornament. And I've decided that I'm going to back it, even though they're flowers and not snowflakes, I'm going to back it in this fabric, which I think will be really beautiful. And if I find something else, I may pick that too, because now that I'm realizing that it's flowers, not snowflakes, I'm less attracted to it. And I have this vintage piping in red that I was thinking would go around it. But now I'm debating this. I'm debating this now. So I may need to think of another idea. Or it may just be in this. I'll take a picture of it because, no, I might have it. I'll have it next time. It doesn't need to be sent out until December 10th. So, but I thought that that would be really cute. I do have red velvet actually. Maybe I'll finish it in red velvet on the back. Well, regardless, with like a silver piping. Well, anyway, it's done. So I'm sorry, I'm so out of it and I have no notes. So it's like, I'm just winging it, folks. I'm just winging it. So that is my finish and my fully finish. And I'm pretty pleased that I got both of those done. And I'm pleased that the snowflake and birds is done before the deadline, so I can register that it's done and get that all sent out to my Secret Santa partner in the next couple weeks. Now, I did have a giveaway in my last video, and it was a spooky Halloween giveaway for a Victorian trading card. Basically, that I was sent by accident. So I had ordered a lovely card that like thread salesmen in the Victorian era would carry and hand out when they were going door to door. And I got sent this horrifying haunted baby instead. And so I've decided to give it away. I've lost it again. It's somewhere because I found it and then I lost it. So in my piles of stuff, it's got to be in here unless it's planning on murdering me, in which case it'll just keep hiding. But I will find it and I will send it out to the winner, who is Charla Breckville. So Charla left a comment about how she used to have a doll like this that she recently got rid of and luckily sent the haunted card to me. She didn't send the card to me, but she sent the haunting, the baby haunting curse to me. And so I'm sending it back to her. So Charlotte, congratulations. As soon as I find it, I will send it to you. It's got to be somewhere. And if I don't find it, I will have been murdered in my bed. And you know, these things happen when you play with haunted and cursed objects. So that's that. But I will find it when I'm able to clean up in here, and you will get a random cursed baby card at some point. So Charla, hit me up on Instagram and in the messages on Instagram and give me your address, and I will just pop it in a card and send it out whenever I get it. If you don't have Instagram, you can email me. My email address is down below, and you can shoot me an email as well with all that info. So that's that taken care of. I feel like there's something that I'm missing, but I don't know what it is. But there's something else I wanted to talk about. Anywho, if it's important, I will record a little short video and post it later on. So let's talk about my whips. I have a bunch of Christmas whips which are also finished objects, but they're also whips at the same time. With this craft fair, I can't think. With this craft fair, I'm also making small embroidered and beaded ornaments. And what I did was I bought some printed Christmas fabric. So it had all different it had 4 different motifs on it. It had pine cones, it had berries, white flowers, which are kind of hard to see, but it's there. White flowers, and then little white flowers too, which I've decided not to use. So I had decided to do a little bit of embroidering and beading on them and put them into these 3-inch hoops right there, the little 3-inch hoops, and turn them into Christmas ornaments. And so I have finished a bunch of those, and I showed a bunch of them 2 weeks ago. I have more. So this is what the pine cones look like. I embroidered the berries. I put little pearls in the pine cone, and then I don't know if you can see in the greenery up here, I put a little bit of gold silk. This is silk and beads. I have a bunch of that kind. I think I'm gonna have 5 of each, maybe. For the white flower, I again stitched the berries in, and a BeStitchMe actually. BeStitchMe silk. Hold on, let me find it. It's a beautiful silk. The BeStitchMe silk is in Red Barn, which is a lovely red. It's really beautiful. So I stitched the berries in the red silk. I put kind of a larger gold bead in the middle, and then I used that white silk. Yeah, I used the white silk again that like I used in the snowflake, for the snowflake and cardinal, and put that there. So that's a Devere Yarns Silk in Crystal is the name of the silk. Crystal. And it's a size 6 silk, so I double it up. And then the final one that I did is the most complicated, so I toned it down after this. But with the holly berries, I put red beads on the holly berries. I put gold in these leaves over here. And then I don't even know if you can see, I put some, you literally can't even really see it. I did some green silk stitching here. And sorry about the squeaky chair. That green is Swamp, also BeStitchMe. So that is my kind of Christmas finish whip combo because I have made a bunch of them, but I still have a bunch more to do. And then I need to fully finish them. So I will take pictures. Well, you'll see them in the video next Friday when I give you a tour of all the stuff I'm taking to the craft fair. And then my final whip that I'm caught up on, because this one I work on with my mom on Sundays, and that is my temperature library pattern that I designed for me and my mom, although my mom has abandoned ship. But I'm still trucking along, and here I'm down here in November, so I'm up to November 5th, which I think is pretty good. I do have some knickknacks to fill in, and you can see here I was gonna start working on this clock right here, but then I just didn't. This is the 2021 version of the temperature library in embroidery. I have a cross stitch 2021 version that looks like this, and I've updated it to include numbers. So if you like this pattern better, you can just switch out the numbers and make it for 2022 or beyond. I also have a 2022 version that has more knickknacks, and that looks like this. That is also available. Oh, all these are available in my Etsy shop, which is linked down below. And then I did a second temperature pattern this year that was inspired by my mom and Chevis of Chevy Rel's Stuff podcast. And that is a drink shelf that looks like this. I am currently working on the 2022 version of the embroidered version, which is sketched out, so it'll look like this. Well, it's sketched out, it looks like this, but it's not quite ready yet. And I am not releasing it until I've planned out my year. So for this one, I am stitching every book in satin stitch. And the reason I did this is because I felt like I needed to practice my satin stitch. I tend to really do a lot of stem stitch and back stitch and split stitch. Those are kind of the stitches that I rely most on in my own personal embroidery. And my satin stitch was always kind of messy. And so I thought, well, what better way to practice my satin stitch than forcing myself to do a tiny satin stitch block every day for an entire year. And I think it has helped tremendously. So if you look at my E here, that satin stitch on like that flower is phenomenal. Whereas if you look at this piece, the satin stitch is okay, but it's not nearly as good. So I'm really pleased with my practice that I've been doing with my satin stitch. Because this looks like a real embroiderer did it. A real embroidery artist did that E. So this has been really good. Anyway, back to stitching. So I chose to do this all in satin stitch. Next year, I want to explore all different stitches because I tend to rely on just a couple stitches, more than just those 4, but I only have about a dozen stitches that I use regularly. And there are hundreds of stitches out there. So I have decided to do each book for next year in a different stitch. So I'm calling it the hashtag 365 Stitch Project, and I'll put that hashtag here. And that's starting on January 1st, or the first Sunday, because I will be doing this on Sundays with my mom. But I want to plan it out ahead of time. That's the kind of thing that I definitely want to plan out ahead of time, just because I don't want to have to think about it. I want it just planned out. So what I'm doing is making a spreadsheet, a Google sheet that I want to share with everybody in case other people want to do it too. And it will include the day and the stitch, and also, if I can find one, a tutorial. And if I can't find a tutorial, I'm hoping that I'll have time to record a tutorial of my own. And that's kind of my plan. And I'm getting these stitches from various books. I have all sorts of different vintage and modern stitch books that were gifted to me by wonderful people. And so I'm going to use those. And then I'm also going to definitely dig into the Royal School of Needlework's Stitch Bank. And that is rsnstitchbank.org, I think. I'll put it right here. I'll put the link right here, and I'll link it down below as well. And that's 150 stitches, different stitches from all over the world. So a couple things have to happen. This is stitched on just a cotton linen blend yardage. No, it's not. This is stitched on a linen yardage. I'm going to have to stitch the next one on an even weave of some kind because a lot of the filling work is counted work and you can't do that on a yardage like this. I mean, you can, but it won't look very nice. So I do have a large piece of even weave. I'll have to see what count it is that a friend gave me. She gave me a nice stash of cross stitch fabric. And so I think I might dig into some of that. And it's kind of a beigey color, which I like. So I think I'm going to use that. But that will all come later. And when I have that spreadsheet at least organized, that's when I will release this pattern. I'll finalize it kind of the next 2 weeks and then release them all together. So that way, if you're interested in trying out all different kinds of stitches, specialty stitches, I know a lot of cross stitchers call them specialty stitches, you can do that with me. And I think it'll be really fun. So I'm going to do embroidery stitches and specialty stitches and needlepoint stitches and cross stitches. And it's going to be a really exciting adventure. And I hope I'm able to do it. This is mounted on a frame. And I've had a question about how this is mounted on a frame. Often embroidery is mounted on frames as opposed to in hoops or on scroll bars and stuff like that. And this is literally just a cheap canvas that I got from Michael's. I ripped the canvas off and it left me with a frame. And I just used thumbtacks and I've stretched it and I pin it. And the nice thing about a frame like this is that for the most part, it keeps the tension really well because it's kind of pinned. Now, if I were to do this again, I would double layer because this is only a single layer. I don't think I washed this fabric first, so it's a very loose weave. It did not shrink at all. So I definitely would have washed it first. And in fact, the other parts of this fabric are washed, but I would double layer it just because it needs that kind of stability. But I kind of love it. And this is how I finished off my Hildegard of Bingen's Cosmic Egg as well, which I also finished sketching today. So those of you who have been around for a while may remember this embroidery that I did for a friend of mine, Hildegard of Bingen's Cosmic Egg. And I had planned on stitching another one for me starting on October 1st, but that didn't happen for various reasons. And so now, it didn't happen because I messed up the tracing and it was a disaster. And so what I decided to do was sketch it digitally. And then tomorrow I have an appointment to go to my school's tech lab. They have a Cricut machine and I'm going to try and get it transferred onto fabric, just drawn onto fabric with the Cricut using the sketch file, this sketch file here that I finished this morning. Anyway, lots of stuff going on, but that was also on a frame. This is what happens when I'm exhausted and have no notes. I just kind of talk. So that's what this frame is about. It just keeps it taut and it kind of just slides nicely into boop. You don't have to boop all the time. I boop a lot apparently, but it just slides nicely into its different places, different like where I hold my whips and stuff. And it is housed in my books project bag. And I use the called for DMC flosses, which I keep on this card. And I almost went through all of my 84 to 86 degree temperature, which is 444. This yellow, this medium toned yellow is almost all gone. That's all I have left of the skein. I was thinking about changing my temperatures because I didn't use these two hottest temperatures this year, these two hottest colors, but I don't think I'm gonna. I think I'm just gonna keep it. It's fine. It's all fine. So that's that project. And those are all my whips. So I think all I have left then, that's my kind of works in progress. I have some stitchy kindness, I have a little bit of haul, and then I have some plans I want to talk about. So let's talk first about stitchy kindness. I got some stitchy kindness from my mom. She had used these in a gift and had extras and sent them to me. And they are little ornament frames. And they're just wooden frames, and they just have a circle back, but they're picture frames. But this plastic is not attached, and so you can, or I will, my plan is to pull them out, and I can put little embroideries or cross stitches in the frames. So she gave me two large stars. Oh, they're all the same size star. She gave me 3 stars. Whew. This is gonna be I don't even know how much editing I'm doing on this. You may just get the real tired Christy in this one. And then the other one is a gift. And I think these are super cute. I can paint them or finish them or do whatever with them if I want, but I don't have to. So that is my Stitchy Kindness from my mom. And I do have a little bit of a haul. I did get my October 2021 Thread Club from Color and Cotton. And in fact, I think I got this right before my last video, but I forgot to show you. So I'm going to show you real quick. They're beautiful colors. They're very autumnal, but not incredibly autumnal. So we have Pale Ochre, Pumpkin Jack, Peach Cobbler, Hollyberry, and Forest. And I like the Color and Cotton because there's a variegation, but it's very usable, right? For some of the variegated flosses I have, I love them and I think they're so much fun, but I can only use them in certain circumstances. But these I feel like you can use in more circumstances. I found on Amazon, I'll link them down below, from Kato, which a lot of my hoops are from Kato. I found aluminum hoops. So these are 3-inch hoops that are, I'm assuming, supposed to be for ornaments, but they are green, red, and gold, and they're aluminum. So they weren't very cheap. Sorry about the crinkling, but they're in plastic. But I've never seen them before, and so I picked up 2 packs of the three packs. Ooh, my phone is on an eye saving light, so it cuts the blue light at sundown, and apparently the sun went down because I looked away and I was like normal color, and I looked back and I was very yellow. So luckily I don't think I really have anything that I need to check the color in because the color is wrong now. So that was the a stitchy thing I got from Amazon. I've gotten other things too. I've gotten a lot of stuff related to my spools and my craft fair, which I will show you all the results of on Friday, but I'm not going to show that here because that's just a lot for no purpose. I did, however, pick up from 123 Stitch a yard of ivory 20 count Aida from 123 Stitch. I'm not sure I said that. I think it's Zweigart. I got this for the Haid that I want to start. I want to start a Heaven and Earth design full coverage chart in the next couple months. And I'm doing the Lady and the Unicorn Desire, which is a medieval tapestry that's housed at the Musée de Cluny in Paris, which I've seen many times. And I look forward to getting back to. I'm doing it on 20 count, so I don't actually need a yard, but a half yard. I needed more than a half yard. So like my option was a yard or a custom cut, and that was silly. And I got it in ivory because, as you saw in the picture, it's very full coverage, and the coverage is fairly dark. It's mostly reds in the background. And so I thought if there was a little bit of fabric showing through, if like the coverage wasn't perfect, I would rather have it slightly ivory than bright white. I almost got a natural that had kind of little flecks in it. And then I was thinking maybe like a darker beigey color, but there are some very light parts, like the unicorn is very light. So I thought an ivory would be nice. It wouldn't be like supersonic white, but it would still be light enough that it wouldn't show through in the light parts of the stitching. And the reason why I decided to get this from 123 Stitch is because I won the 1,000 subscriber giveaway from Carrie and Stitches. She sent me a 123 Stitch gift card that covered almost all of this fabric. So thank you so much, Carrie. You are facilitating my hating, Haeding. So thanks so much, Carrie. And Carrie will be linked down below too. She has a great channel. She also has an Etsy shop, which I will also link down below. I wanted to say it's called the Black Pear, but she's linked down below. And that is, I think, all of my stitchy. Oh, and then I got, that's not all my stitchy haul. I got the Black Needle Society. Well, I finally got off the Black Needle Society waiting list, and I got my first box on Tuesday. And it was the Resolution Stitching box. And I recorded an unboxing video on Wednesday, which I will put up here. So if you want to see what's in that box, you can check that out there. So we'll talk plans, and then we'll talk book, and then I think that's it. So my plans are, as I mentioned, I finished the bird and the snowflake, but there were two that I needed to do because I have two different exchanges, holiday exchanges, Christmas exchanges that I'm participating in. The second one is going to be this German Santa. There we go. This German Santa. And I want to start him this week. Or at least the next 2 weeks. Maybe not this week, but definitely the next 2 weeks. I want to get him done, started, and possibly finished. He's not very big in the next 2 weeks. And I might mount him actually in one of the new aluminum hoops. I don't know. We'll see. We'll see how I feel. I could mount my... No, my snowflake's too big. I was thinking I could mount my snowflake in one, but I don't think I can. Regardless, I need to stitch him, and that is in the Cross Quick December, January 1990 magazine. Someone asked about that too. I definitely want to work on that. I want to get my Hildegard of Bingen onto fabric, and like I said, I have an appointment to do that tomorrow. I want to release, or I want to finalize my, at least a bunch of the beginning of my stitches for my 365 stitch project that I'm doing next year. I want to work on my landscape. I started a landscape, a beach landscape that I've kind of put by the wayside recently because of this craft fair that's happening next week. So I kind of want to pull that out again and work on that, catch up with my current temperature project. Oh, I'm also going to stitch the drinks shelf next year. So I'm going to stitch the temperature library in all these different stitches, and I'm going to do the temperature bar shelf, the drink shelf, in cross stitch. So I'm going to do both of them next year. Oh, and I need to finish all my stuff for my craft fair. So that's going to take up, basically this next week is going to be craft fair stuff, and then I have a week before my next Flosstube when I will hopefully get some stitching done, and that'll be really fun. I think that's all my stitching content. If you don't care about my book, then thank you so much for watching. I appreciate you very much, and I hope that you saw something that was interesting to you. And if you did, I'd love if you would subscribe and stick around and hang out with me some more. Those of you who want to hear about my book, or those of you who are new and don't know why I'm talking about a book, I am a history professor, a medieval history professor, and I'm writing a book. And I did record a video about that book, which I will link to up here. It has changed a little bit. The subject matter is the same, but the formatting has changed a bit. And my goals for my current sabbatical have changed tremendously. I basically have just been reading a ton this semester, and that has not stopped. In the past 2 weeks, I've read, goodness, 4 or 5 articles and 2 books, and taken notes and all that kind of stuff. And I still have not gotten through the canon law book that I talked about, that I showed you in the last one. I'm at a chapter that is literally 50 pages long and is just like legal procedure, and I cannot get through it. And I keep reading other things to like procrastinate reading that book. I mean, reading that article. So that is like my goal. My goal for the next 2 weeks is to finish that book. It is a thick book, and it is dense, and it is not exciting, but it's stuff that I need to know. But what I'm realizing is that I was not well prepared when I wrote my dissertation. I read a lot of stuff, but there is a lot of stuff that I should have read that I missed. Part of the issue is that my advisor did not work in the field that I wrote my dissertation in. And I'm not sure if that was her fault or my fault. I mean, in the end, I finished and it's fine. But what I'm realizing is that I do not, well, I'm getting there now, but I, at the beginning of this semester, did not have the literature in my field down the way I should have had it down. It also doesn't help that I haven't really done research in about 6 years. I'm in a very teaching heavy institution, and so we don't really get opportunities to do research. I teach 4 classes a semester, sometimes 5 classes a semester. People, for example, people at like research heavy institutions teach 1 or 2 classes a semester. So I'm essentially, my job is teaching, and any research that I do is on my own time in addition to all of that. So I really don't have time, haven't had time to do this kind of in-depth dive into what has been written in my field in the past 6 years, and a lot has been written in my field. So anywho, that's suffice to say that I've been doing a lot of reading, and it's been very nice to get back into this, but it is intense. And I mean, I'm teaching again next semester, so I have to start planning that. So my plan is to keep on pushing through, get as much reading done as I possibly can by December 3rd, which I think is a Friday. And then starting on December 6th, I have to plan my classes for next semester. That's kind of the end. That's the end of my sabbatical, and I need to get prepared for classes. So that is my book update. Lots and lots of reading. I did read an entire book on bigamy. I don't 100% agree with her conclusions, but I think that they give you something to think about. Essentially, she looked at bigamy cases in 15th century Troyes, which is in Champagne in northern France. And she argues that this was the big issue that in the Council of... I need to back up. In the 16th century, we have the Protestant Reformation, which was in the early 16th century, kind of into the mid to late 16th century. In the mid 16th century, there was a Catholic counter-reformation in which the Catholic Church decided to address or not address some of the challenges launched at it by the Protestants. And so they called together this great council called the Council of Trent. And this Council of Trent met over many years, and there are lots of they covered all sorts of different things. And the 24th meeting, I think it was the 24th meeting, I think it was the 1560s, I want to say 1565, around there, was on marriage. And it starts off with a ruling that is, with a decision that we call tamitsi, because that's the first word. I'll put that right here. It's just tamitsi. And this ruling basically made invalid the way medieval people got married. In the Middle Ages, all you needed to get married was consent. You did not need a priest. You did not need a church. You did not need a contract. You did not need any of that stuff. You just needed the consent of the two people freely given. But what this meant was you had lots of clandestine marriages, and you had bigamy sometimes. And what this author argues is that bigamy was the big problem that the church leaders in the Council of Trent were trying to fight. I was not convinced. She is an excellent researcher, and in fact, she is the one who introduced me to the sources I used for my dissertation. We had coffee, 12 years ago, 13 years ago in Paris, my first time in Paris, and she introduced me to these sources that I ended up using for my dissertation. She also wrote one of the chapters along with another person in this canon law book that I can't get through. So she's a very good researcher, very smart, but I do disagree with her argument. If you care. So that was one of the things that I researched that I read this week. And I had read this book before, but I was younger and just accepted it. But I read it a second time and I don't accept it as much. Obviously, there was some concern about it, but I do not think that it was the giant problem she thought it was. And in fact, there is almost no bigamy in my court. So, yeah. All right, everybody. I think that that is it from me. Thank you so much for joining me. I realize when I'm tired, I just kind of babble. So sorry about that. There will be some light editing, but probably not a ton of editing. You're going to get, I don't have a ton of time right now. So you may just get this as it is, and I hope that that's okay with you. Again, thank you so much for joining me. I hope you enjoyed our conversation today, and I hope that I will see you again next week when I show you what I'm taking to my craft fair in town. So with all that being said, please take good care of yourselves and have a good one. Bye.